If you have been thinking about a career in tech that's in high demand, pays incredibly well, and is in the heart of modern innovation, then you've come to the right place. A quick search on LinkedIn will show over 180,000 data engineering jobs worldwide. And the salaries, they are pretty impressive too. It starts off great and then it keeps going up when you move into more experienced roles. Those numbers can skyrocket to over $450,000 in the US and more than 1 crore or 2 crores in India as well. In this video, I'm going to share with you the fastest way to become a self-taught data engineer and get a job all within a span of 6 months. Hey everyone, as you might know, I'm Josh and I have about 6+ years of experience in working in data and AI field at different tech companies like DoorDash, Google and ZS. And you heard it right. 6 months, yes, it is ambitious, but with the right plan and strategy, it is very achievable. So grab your notepad and let's get started. First of all, let's understand what a data engineer is with a simple analogy. So think of a data engineer like a civil engineer who is responsible for building roads and tunnels and bridges so that traffic can flow in smoothly. Their job is to ensure that massive amounts of information can pass through quickly, safely, and reliably from various different data sources, and all of these things should be done in very scalable pipelines and infrastructure. A data analyst in this analogy is like a traffic reporter who will tell you that where the traffic is, what road to take, what road to avoid, and figuring out the weakness and strengths of your traffic network. A data scientist is like an urban planner who will predict when the traffic will happen based on what conditions in the future. And an AI engineer will use those predictions to build smart traffic lights so that the traffic doesn't really happen in real time. So without data engineers, there would be no foundation, and that's why they are so important. Alright, so let's break down this 6 months plan. We are going to divide it into 3 simple phases. Month 1 to 4 will be all about acquiring the required skills. Month 5 will be about projects and month 6 will be about job hunt. These 4 months are all about acquiring skills, and it's about making sure that you have the good technical foundation you need to succeed. First up, it's Python. It's everywhere, whether you're working with Spark clusters or Airflow like orchestrators, or you're working with different cloud SDKs. Python is the undisputed king of data engineering. For a beginner friendly approach, I recommend starting out with Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. This is an ebook that's available online. It teaches you Python through real world examples. By the way, all the links and resources that I'm mentioning in this video are all in the description, so feel free to check it out. To take it one level up, I highly recommend Python Data Engineers track on DataCamp. It will guide you through entire data engineering ecosystem, covering additional things like interacting with databases, using SQL or live APIs. It has also introduction to data pipeline tools like ETLs or ELTs, Airflow, PySpark. You will also learn software engineering best practices, Git tutorials, and then there are hands-on projects and learning which are incredibly useful to get you the job ready skill. Next is SQL. If Python is your language, then SQL is your superpower. You will use it for everything, starting from data analytics to building good data models. But even before you start learning about SQL, you need to understand the foundations. The prerequisite for this is DBMS. So go through this quick crash course first. Remember, it's just the prerequisite. The main thing, SQL, is yet to be started. But learning SQL alone is not good enough. Everybody can memorize syntaxes. In fact, LLMs can do that now better than you can. So what you need is to think like a data engineer. You also need to understand the data warehousing and modeling concepts, like what is star versus snowflake schema, where to normalize a table or where to use a denormalized version, or understand different dimensional or analytical data models. And this is why I recommend Associate Data Engineer track on DataCamp. It starts from zero and it gets you to the window functions and Snowflake as well, and all of these things would happen in about 30 hours. Once you're comfortable with SQL and data warehousing, you can also get certified to prove your skills, and this is one of the certificates that I recommend. This is Data Engineer Associate Certification because it's realistic and proctored exam. It's not just a course completion certificate. It has 2 parts, a multiple choice quiz on fundamentals like SQL and orchestration, and hands-on coding case studies where you will clean files, build a data model, answer business questions, all with SQL. It's practical, it's open book, and it gives you your idea of your strengths and weaknesses, which are extremely important. Thank you DataCamp for sponsoring this part of the video. Next is cloud, and I recommend AWS for beginners. While you cannot go wrong with AWS, Azure or GCP, the reason I recommend this for beginners is because it has the largest market share and it's also the easiest to get started with. The understanding of cloud is one of the main requirements of data engineering role. Now AWS has more than 170 services. You don't have to be master at each and every one of them. What you need to focus on more: S3, EC2, ECS, VPCs, RDS, DynamoDB, Redshift, EMR, Glue, Lambda, and Kinesis. I would say these things are completely non-negotiable for data engineers, and a good starting point would be a Solutions Architect Associate course that you can find on Udemy. This is taken by Stefan Marek. It will give you an overall idea about the AWS ecosystem. You can also opt for the same AWS certification if you want to know more about the prep path and everything. I created a dedicated video about that, so I'm going to link it right here in the cards and in the description as well, so check it out. Next is modern data stack. Now you need to process petabytes and terabytes of data. Even if you do it on cloud, you cannot do it on a single node cluster. What I mean by a node is basically one machine or one laptop, for example. You need to understand distributed frameworks. One example is Spark. So think of it like a Spark cluster has 15 different machines in the backend, and then depending on workload, it divides equally into those machines and then collects the data finally so that you can get an aggregated view. For batch processing and near real-time processing, learning Spark is important. The best course is from Frank Kane on Udemy. Also, when you learn Spark, do it on Databricks. You can create a Databricks Community Edition account so that you can learn both Spark and Databricks at the same time. Also, for streaming data, get familiar with Apache Kafka or Kinesis. This is for handling real-time data like social media streams or IoT sensors. For Kafka, going through the documentation itself is sufficient. For orchestration, Apache Airflow is like an industry standard for building your pipelines and scheduling it on a regular basis, on making it trigger based on certain events. It's like a glue that pulls your different data pipeline components and finally creates a single view for you to look at. Airflow documentation is your best resource to learn about Airflow. Okay, so these three things, Spark, Kafka and Airflow, are absolutely essentials, but then there are a couple of optional things as well that I'm going to talk about. Number one is Flink. So Spark is good for near real-time processing, but when the latency requirement drops to, like, let's say I want to process the data as soon as I get it, like within 300 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds, then you cannot do it with Spark very efficiently. You have to move to something like Flink. So if you have time, go through this basic introductory course about Flink. Learning Snowflake is also important but optional, because when you learn about AWS, you will learn about Redshift, which is like an alternative to Snowflake. But if you are targeting for roles that require Snowflake, then check out this video where I'm specifically talking about Snowflake roadmap. If you're interested in Azure or GCP, I'm going to link their courses in the description as well. Month number 5. Now you have learned your skills, it's time to prove them. You will create 2 dedicated projects in this section, which will be like the centerpiece of your portfolio. Why 2? Because you need to showcase that you can create both types of data engineering projects, streaming as well as batch. Project 1 is a batch project. So you can find different datasets from websites like data.gov or something like AWS Open Datasets. Azure and GCP have similar datasets too. Okay, so now you have the dataset, but if you're unsure about how to get started with the project itself, I'm going to link a very good beginner-friendly project in the video. In this project, you can see what is the final objective, which is about creating a user behavior metric, and then you can also see the entire architecture, which uses different data sources like CSV and database. It uses Spark, it orchestrates everything on Airflow and generates metrics into a final semantic layer database and on a dashboard. For a bonus, instead of doing this project locally, you should do it on AWS. So you get a lot of free tier services when you create an account, and you also get certain credits for the first time. So use them. So it's even more impressive to show it on your GitHub profile. You can build a pipeline that ingests data from S3, and then you can use an EMR for a Spark cluster or an EC2 that has Spark installed. You can orchestrate it on Airflow, and then you can load everything into like something like a Redshift or Snowflake and build a dashboard on top of that. Next is a streaming project or a real-time project. For this, first you will need a data source. There's this GitHub repository called Awesome Public Real-Time Datasets that has all the links to all sorts of free and paid streaming data. Real-time project that you can take a look at for inspiration, that's perfect for beginners. In this one, you will learn different components like Kafka, Observability, Flink, PostgreSQL, and Grafana. Remember, don't do anything locally, do it on cloud. You've got the skills and the project, now it's time to land a job. So number one thing you should do is build your portfolio. So open up your GitHub repository, put 2 to 3 projects there about streaming or real time, or one that's a mix of both. Create a very impressive README profile that has an architecture overview and what unique thing that you did in a project or what unique problem did you solve. Once you create your portfolio, write a blog post about every project. So if you have 2 projects in your GitHub portfolio, you should have 2 Medium posts, and then publicize it on LinkedIn so that you get more views and interactions on it. Then you need to update your resume and LinkedIn. So make sure that all of the required data engineering skills are listed there. You list your portfolio, you list your blog post and everything. And then final thing is practice for interview. So there are 4 different rounds that you need to worry about the most: DSA, SQL, data modeling, and system design. If you're a fresher or intern, you only need to focus mostly on 2 rounds, which is DSA and SQL, and then there may be some questions around OS or DBMS as well, so learn about that. So for DSA and SQL, the prep strategy is pretty simple. You can go to LeetCode and start solving SQL and DSA problems, but it's slightly different for data modeling and system design round, because in these rounds there is no one right answers. All depends on your justification and your approach. I created a separate video for this where I'm talking about all the data engineering interview rounds and how to tackle them, how to prepare for them. So I'm going to link it here in the cards and in the description below. So don't forget to check it out when you reach this stage, the month 6 of your data engineering journey. And that's it. That's your 6-month blueprint. I know it's a challenging and it's a long committed journey, but I assure you that it is highly rewarding. The most important thing is to start. I mean, don't wait until you know everything. You will figure out on the way. If you found this video useful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments, thoughts or questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. And that's about it. See you next time.